We can't say the future without AI. I mean, there's no way around it. 50% of workers now believe AI is going to improve their experience. When I come into the meeting room, I need a way to incorporate my AI with what's going on in the meeting. It's almost a bring your own AI type of a concept. Most of what we do in our day-to-day is going to change significantly.
Hear the latest AV trends and predictions in this episode of Crestron's Smarter Spaces podcast on your preferred podcast platform.
To me, a big shocker. This was not on my radar. If this was on anybody's radar that I had spoken to, they didn't say anything to me about it. And if anybody had been predicting this, it was news to me.
Loose lips sink third quarter profits.
Controlling the controllables and doing a deep dive into ADI, buying Snap One. All that and more. Next on ResiWeek. This is ResiWeek, episode 427, recorded Monday, April 15th, 2024. Resideo acquires Snap One. This is ResiWeek, the weekly look at the residential and CI space for the AV industry. My name is Tim Albright. In for the vacationing Matt Scott, and let's just be honest, I do it better than him anyway. So here we go. Jason Knott with D-Tools. How are you, sir?
I'm doing great, Tim. How you doing?
I am well. I get to sit in the big chair this week. Also with us is Bryan Koutsky from OliverIQ. I almost said AI. Good Lord. OliverIQ. How are you, sir?
AI wouldn't have been that far off, but I'm doing great.
It wouldn't have been. It's kind of where my brain went, right?
It's where my brain still is from ISC coming off the show. So
understand that. How are you, sir?
I'm great. How are you doing?
I am well. So we, as what happens in the industry, and Jason sat in editorial chair long enough that he feels this, there is no breaking news in this industry. Nothing happens, right? Nothing's surprising. Nothing comes out of the blue. Oh, wait. Yes, it does. This morning, we actually got an email from Jason saying, hey, we should probably talk about this. ADI is buying Snap One. So, yeah, that's a thing. I'll read the press release here in a second. We'll get into it. Resideo Technologies has announced Resideo owns ADI. Resideo Technologies has announced a definitive agreement to acquire Snap One Holdings Corporation for approximately $1.4 billion with a B dollars. The acquisition, which is expected to close in the second half of 2024, will integrate Snap One into Resideo's ADI global distribution business, creating a quote-unquote strong position in security, audiovisual, and smart living technology. The combined company is expected to drive increased value for integrators and financial returns through an expanded selection of proprietary products, extensive third-party supplier relations, and proven omni-channel reach. Now, as of Friday, because Snap One is a publicly traded company, Snap One was trading at $8.14 per share. We checked it about an hour ago as of this recording, which is 2 p.m. Central Daylight Time on Monday. It was up to $10.60 a share. So obviously investors think this is a good idea. We'll get to that in a second. Jason, but generically, what does this mean to the residential market?
So right out of the blue, I just have to say, to me, a big shocker. This was not on my radar. If this was on anybody's radar that I had spoken to, they didn't say anything to me about it. And if anybody had been predicting this, it was news to me. So this was, I think, quite a big shocker to the industry, and exciting news, as you say. So I kind of want to look at this from three different perspectives. The first you already hit on, Tim, which was the stock price. So let's kind of circle back. Snap had the ballyhooed IPO back in 2021 at $18 a share, if everybody remembers. And then it actually elevated up to about $23 a share, and then has deflated ever since. It's been down in the $6 range, as you mentioned, $8.14 before the announcement today. So I think this tells me that I don't think Snap saw a way that they were going to organically ever get back to that $18 or $23 share price. And having the buyout, accepting a buyout at $10.75, which is, again, higher than what it was trading at, but well below where I think the initial expectations were for the company. Clearly, when they had the IPO and what it had gotten to pre-pandemic, as we all know, a lot of stock suffered in the pandemic era.
Yeah.
But it's a little bit of a surrender, I would call it, from that standpoint, that they sold at that price. Of course, obviously, $1.4 billion is nothing to sneeze at. The second part I want to look at is through distribution. This clearly creates the 300-pound gorilla on the distribution side. ADI is very dominant in the security space. They have been for decades and decades. I've been in the industry for 30 plus years. They were, always, the gorilla in the security space. And then Snap has become that in the custom AV space. Both companies have been strategically buying up smaller regional players over the past 5 or 6 years and consolidating. Now to bring this all together, it's a juggernaut. Is the best way I could describe it on the distribution standpoint. The third part of interest to me is going to be the control panel side of this. So ADI or Resideo, the parent, is the owners of what was originally Hidemco and then became Honeywell, as we all know. So the leading control panel on the security space. Control 4 is the leading control panel in the custom AV space, the smart home AV space. I think the real differentiators there only are really that Control 4 has AV element control and Resideo does not. It does have lighting, has lighting control and climate control and obviously security. And they had, over the years, I think Resideo acquired Whisker Labs a few years ago that has some real cool energy management elements to it where they can read different signatures of different devices in the home. So the Hidemco, again, I'm old school here. The Hidemco panel, that Resideo panel is a very intelligent security panel. I'm going to be curious to how they define those two panels in the market now. Are they going to try and keep them both as a better, best solution out there for the market? Are we going to see the capabilities combine into a singular panel? Because we know the security integrators are already trying to elevate into custom AV smart home space and add more elements to their service offerings. So it could be, we're seeing a migration that's happening of, a lot of integrators eschewing doing control at all. They're have individual apps, an individual Sonos app, an individual Lutron app, whatever it might be. So maybe the control conflict between those two panels isn't such a big deal because they see this as a somewhat diminishing market. I don't know, but I'll be very, very curious to see where this shakes out at the control panel side.
All right, Bryan, from your standpoint, what does this mean to the industry?
I think Jason is spot on. I also would add that the AV companies are migrating towards security. So while security is going to AV is going back to security. And let's not forget that under the Snap umbrella is the Claire brand for security. And so it adds another element. I look at it as a distributor side. If I'm on the ADI team and Snap is moving into your backyard and they're gobbling up other distributors. And so I think it could be the best of both worlds. We're going to have to wait to see how this thing shakes out. I think the Control 4 dealers, near and dear to my heart from my previous history, I think have been kind of in this lost limbo way under the Snap umbrella after they got acquired. The business model kind of just sat stale for a while as they continued to build up the distribution brand. There's always been, from the dealer side, a sense of that the Control 4 protected brand under the dealership umbrella was going to be sold massive. And in reading a lot of the reviews today, now that question is even more apparent. You take the combination of Snap announcing Connect and announcing Assist, it brings you down a path to where I could go to an ADI counter, buy a Control 4 piece and get support from a dealer that is under the assist portion. So what Snap announced 3 months ago is that part of this long process that they've been building out. I think Jason's also right in the fact that it's a little bit of a surrender. It's almost like they didn't know what to do with that control side of the business. Resideo, I think, from a control side, obviously in the thermostat space, security space, and the ADI world, understands maybe a little bit better than Snap did. It's going to be a wait and see. But my phone's been blowing up today as people from my past life have been calling me. I woke up to a wow. That was the first text message. And I'm like, what do you mean, wow? And then I saw the news. So, yeah, like you said, we could talk all day on this.
And we might.
You bring up a really good point there about Control 4 Connect and Control 4 Assist, because Resideo, clearly coming from the security space, it's RMR, rooted in RMR. So now, Control 4 launched this 3 months. Is it been 3 months already? 3 months ago.
Well, it hasn't even gone into effect yet.
They announced it right after CES, and it started.
They announced it right after CES, but it's not supposed to go into effect at the end of April.
Next week, April 23rd.
Next week, yeah.
So I have no doubt that the potential recurring revenue element of this was very attractive to Resideo, from being able to bring in these, vast numbers of Control 4 integrators into the realm of understanding how RMR is beneficial and building that side of the business. So, again, we'll see how it shakes out. But you said, wow, Bryan, it's funny. I had, I think, 5 wows in either emails or texts also. That's the term of the day. Yeah. Wow.
The other shout that I'd like to say is, Tim, you predicted it. You said if anything shakes in the next 72 hours that we should talk about, let's talk about it. Well, there you go.
That was Mitchell. That was Mitchell, just for the record. I didn't predict nothing. I don't predict things. And here's the thing. And Jason, we there are seasons, right? And I mentioned the fact that Jason sat in an editor's chair for a number of years. You feel that, right? There have been rumors and speculations on the pro side for about 2 months now. Nothing to this level, right? There's a couple that are hitting at that level, but nothing at this level. And that's what they are, the rumors and speculations. This one literally came out of left field, right? I mean, yes, there were a handful of people that absolutely knew this because they were doing the due diligence and they were involved in the negotiations. But those of us who sit around and, share tea amongst ourselves, none of this, right, was coming down the pipeline. Jason, I want to come back to something that you said, and Bryan, I'll get your 2 cents after this. You said that this is the combination of 2 300-pound gorillas, right? And it is, right, both on the security side and the AV side. But talk for a second about the differences here, right? Because ADI is what I would consider a traditional distributor, right? They buy other people's stuff and they sell it to dealers, right? Snap One has always been kind of different, right? They've got a line of business. They've got products that they make, that they manufacture. Control 4, is one of them. Access Networks is another. You've got all these legacy products that people have come to know and love and depend on. Where do we think this is all going to shake out when it comes to, kind of it's not private label products, but it's Snap One's product line and ADI's distribution system?
Yeah, it's funny. For many, many years, as everybody may or may not know, I was on the security side for quite a few years, for a decade. ADI has always kind of desired to get into the custom AV space. And the argument that distributors used against them was, hey, they're a security distributor. They're not from our world. And likewise, when we saw custom AV distribution companies trying to delve into the security industry, I stood there and heard ADI say, look, when you wake up in the morning, we as ADI are thinking security first. The other distributors are not thinking that. We're thinking security first. So they've always kind of played both ends of the stick there. That we are security first, but we're moving in and vice versa. So now that's gone away. now that they clearly can say, we not only think security first, but we think custom AV first. This is, again, when I wanted to be specific on that 300-pound gorilla, I was specifically referencing the distribution side of the business. Now, for many, many years, there were manufacturers who did not want to deal with ADI, did not want to partake with ADI because
they also didn't want to mess with Snap One either because they had competing products.
Yeah, and that they would get the end cap in the store. They gave their own products the end cap in the store and those sorts of things. Or at the counter, they would turn them towards their own sister brand products and that sort of stuff. So that's still there. That's still going to be there on both ends of it. Just now you have, I think probably the real impetus for this has to do with the stock price, and that's kind of way above my level. But in terms of trying to bring the shareholder value that they wanted to bring to, I was reading that there's one particular investor that owns the majority of the shares, corporate investing group. There's pressure there, to bring that stock price to a certain size. I know I've worked for public companies, and to some extent, you're working for the investors. And it's funny, I know one of the things we're going to talk about later is the Henry's article about what you can control. When you're working at Snap or you're working at Resideo, you really don't have you're doing your job, you're working your what off. And you see the stock price going down or fluctuating up, you don't really have direct control of that. You can only control what you can control. And I think a lot of the people within both those organizations realize that the fluctuation or the changes in the stock price to a certain extent is out of their control. I'm excited to see that jumped up. That means, as you said, Tim, investors are very excited about the deal. I didn't look at Resideo's price.
They're down about 85 cents a share right now. Are
they? Okay. Yeah. So, and obviously one of them is going to go away. I would think, I would think it isn't, I don't know the corporate workings as to why Snap is specifically being put into the ADI brand versus directly under the Resideo brand. I find that a little interesting to me.
Well, and let me ask you this, Brian, I'll say what I'm going to say, and then I'll bring Brian on this. It almost makes you wonder if Snap One's going to go away, like the name.
Yeah, it is interesting, Tim. First going back to the overlap question, Control4 dealt with that too. If you remember back to the acquisition, Control4 had Pack Edge under its belt. It had Triad under its belt. And so the overlap has been there. There's overlap today with Snap in what they sell through distribution with Sony or with Samsung, and what ADI carries Samsung. So there's some overlap there. And I think that'll shake out. The branding side is interesting. Living in Wisconsin, we went through a transition of Next Level exiting the business and going away. And within 6 months, Snap brought a facility in New Berlin, Wisconsin, right where Next Level was. Happens to be about a mile away from an ADI distributor. And in talking with a lot of my friends today, they've voiced the same thing, is that I got an ADI distributorship, 8 blocks away. So it doesn't make sense from a real estate perspective to have both, separated. Do they bring that all under one fold? Does the Snap brand carry as much weight as an ADI? I think it depends on if you're talking to a security guy or an AV guy. AV guys now don't really buy from ADI. Back when I was a rep 20 years ago, ADI was a stronghold in this market at least, and people were buying AV product and security product. But I think they've moved more towards security. So it's going to be really interesting to see how the whole dynamic plays out.
All right, we are going to squeeze one more story in here, and Jason mentioned it. Our buddy Henry Clifford wrote in Residential Systems, focusing on what you can control. And to Jason's point, you can't control the stock price if you're just, developing product. Clifford emphasizes the importance of shifting attention from lagging, uncontrollable metrics, like last week's sales numbers, to leading controllable behaviors such as consults, networking events, and outbound calls. He also highlights the significance of strategic planning, labor forecasting, and measuring employee and customer happiness as key controllables that can help businesses stay on course during challenging times. By prioritizing these areas and maintaining a cool head, business owners can effectively steer their company towards success, even in the face of inevitable stressors and uncertain times, which we certainly live in. Bryan, a simple question on this. What's the number one controllable for custom install business owners?
I mean, really simply put, it's what's in front of me today.
Okay.
I think in our last subject that we just talked about, you can't control what's going to happen down the road with this acquisition that we just talked about. You have to control what's in front of you today. And I think dealers, I lived 2 years in a dealer world after I left Control 4 and before getting to OliverIQ. I think dealers oftentimes, to Henry's point, get kind of lost in the moment. They're not recruiting new customers. They're not marketing their business. They're not talking to their employees. A lot of CI companies, the employees will show up, they'll load up their trucks, and they're out the door, and the business owner doesn't even see them throughout the day. It's about having those meetings on a continuing basis with them. What's important to them. My style is more learning about personal life too, so you can learn what's important to them beyond just the day-to-day work grind. But I think really, it's simply put, it's keeping what's in front of you today. It's forecasting the business. It's having a pulse on the industry, and it's really about what's in front of you at that moment.
I'll add on to that. I think one of the elements that is important and is something that, now that I'm at D-Tools here and doing the data analysis of the data that comes through D-Tools, I can see Henry made a point of, you might have had a bad sales week. Well, guess what? That really was reflective of what happened 45 to 60 days ago when you were starting that sales process with the customer. And so one of my takeaways from this controllable is know your data. Know what is your sales cycle? What is your buying cycle? Is it a 35? What's the valuation or value engineering process time frame? How long is that customer fielding proposals from other integrators while you're sitting there waiting to hear back from them? You need to know those data points, and then that will help you know whether you really had a bad week or whether you really, as Henry said, 45 days ago had a bad week.
So let me ask you guys this, and Bryan, we'll have you start on this. And it goes back a little bit to our previous story, and you can't control, right, who buys who, right? But it does impact you. So when you're faced with a Monday morning, suddenly finding out that your favorite product line is suddenly not, where you thought it was, how do dealers deal with that? Honestly, quite frankly, Bryan, speak to, the dealers that are looking at Control 4 today and other ones as well, and going, what should they be doing this week or this month before this deal finalizes? Well,
to Henry's point on the planning side of it. So as we indicated earlier, we're not going to know the shakeup of this for, it's not going to finalize for 6 months. You won't know the shakeup for a year, right? So when I looked at business, I said, what are the things that are not commodity items, but replaceable today? So if something were to go haywire, say like, when Speakercraft went to Nortec, and so can I replace my speaker business? Speaker business is probably a, best deal type of thing. It's not necessarily a loyalty. Control brands, I think, are a 4 to 5 year. You look at it. You look at what Crestron Home has done. You look at the Savant and everything that they're moving towards energy, and that business is a longer replacement. Control 4 takes time. People got to get trained on the platform, whatever it is, and you got to move your entire business that way. And so I think it's a longer road. If news breaks on a Monday today, I'm looking at, okay, well, how does it affect me today? And what is the plan that I have to change if I need to make a change in 4 months, 6 months timeframe, right? That's really how I would look at it. And to plug Jason, whoever was part of D Tools helped a little bit. So.
All right, Jason, same question is what should dealers be doing today, tomorrow, and to Brian's point, the next couple of months to prepare for whatever changes coming down the pipeline?
I think they're obviously going to have a good relationship with, both their Resideo or ADI, rep, as well as their Snap One rep. The fortunate part that I look at is both of these organizations are two very, very highly educated and highly functional and data-driven organizations. So there's not any wild cards at all within the groups, and so I think they're highly professional. These guys know what they're doing. They know this is. I have no idea how long these deals take to get done, but you got to guess this has been in the works for quite a long time. And they've thought of way more things than we've talked about here in the last 20 minutes. So I think just, forging that relationship, we really don't know where it's going to end up. I think it'll be business as usual for quite a long time for most integrators. And I think maybe we will see some brands that might change maybe there'll be more of an emphasis selling through distribution than there was previously. I don't know. Some of the Snap brands I'm talking about there. Yeah. Clearly, I think one of the biggest positives will be having more integrators move into security, which is something I've been pushing for 25 years for integrators to adopt recurring revenue business models driven by security. Now they've got, camera surveillance, recording fees, and all those sorts of things you can add. It's not just a straight alarm monitoring or fire detection monitoring anymore. So it's just further evidence of the crossover that's taking place in this industry between security and smart home.
I would also add to that, Jason, that the DIY space is a very confused market today, and customers getting support, whether it's through an AV dealer that's changing their business direction for tech support and call-in support. It's one of the things OliverIQ is solving, is being able to take these products. Control 4 back in the day was, take Crestron and give you 80% of the functionality for 35% of the price. OliverIQ is the same in that this DIY product is making this big momentum. Customers are buying it, but trying to integrate a Ring doorbell or something like an Ecobee into a control system is difficult to do. And customers are confused by it. And then add on the Amazon Alexa skill and all of that. Customers need it too. Let's not forget that at the end of the day, we're in business to sell to end user customers. And customers are left kind of in this void. And I think this partnership that we talked about earlier gets there. I think what Henry's talking about makes better business people and getting a hold of your business. And then what we're doing on our side is kind of bridging all of it together. So
very cool. All right, gentlemen, that'll do it for us. Thank you both so much. Mr. Jason Knott from D Tools. Thank you, sir. How do people connect with you or D Tools?
You can go to d-tools.com. If anybody wants to know anything more about the software, they can follow me on Twitter at Jason W. Knott, or reach out to me via email, jasonkay@d-tools.com. d-tools.com.
You almost got it memorized.
Yeah, close.
He hasn't been there long. Give him a break. All right. Bryan Koutsky from OliverIQ. Thank you, sir. How do people connect with you or find out more about OliverIQ?
So you can go to OliverIQ.com. We'll make it simple without the hyphens. Or you can reach us at info@OliverIQ.com. Or me personally, it's BKOUTSKY @OliverIQ.com. You can connect with me on LinkedIn or on Twitter. My Twitter handle is AUTOM8N. Automation, if you spell that out.
Very nice.
So, thank you very much.
He's an old school Control 4 guy. You can tell that. All right. For me, for Tim Albright, I don't follow me anywhere. I'm not very exciting. But go by the website if you would, please. AVNation.tv. That's AVNation.tv. You will find this program and a host of others Where I usually spend my time is on the pro side. It's called AVWeek. You can check that out. We also have a brand new control and automation episode of State of Control coming out, EdTech and Women in AV. All that and more at AVNation.tv. That's AVNation.tv. Thanks so much for listening. Thank you so much for watching. That is all the time we have for ResiWeek.
The network for the AV industry.
What are you listening to?
This
is AV.
This
is AVNation.
This is AVNation.